On January 21, 2025, the world watched as Ukrainian drones struck deep within Russian territory, hitting targets previously deemed untouchable. The attacks, which targeted the Smolensk aviation plant and an oil refinery, sent shockwaves through Moscow and beyond. These were not isolated incidents. In recent weeks, Ukraine has launched a series of daring drone strikes against key Russian infrastructure, including oil depots and military facilities. The attack on the Smolensk aviation plant, a facility responsible for producing and modernizing Russia's Su-25 fighter jets, was particularly significant. The plant, located hundreds of miles from the Ukrainian border, had long been considered a symbol of Russia's military might. The strike, which caused significant damage to the facility, demonstrated Ukraine's growing ability to project power deep inside Russia. The oil refinery strike, which took place just a day earlier, further highlighted the vulnerability of Russia's energy infrastructure. The attack caused a massive fire, disrupting operations and sending plumes of black smoke into the sky. These strikes, coupled with earlier attacks on oil depots in Kaluga and Tula, underscored Ukraine's determination to cripple Russia's war machine by targeting its economic lifelines. These audacious strikes mark a turning point in the conflict, demonstrating Ukraine's resolve to take the fight to Russia. No longer content with defending their own territory, Ukrainian forces are now actively targeting strategic assets within Russia, raising the stakes of the war and sending a clear message to the Kremlin: Ukraine will not be intimidated. The recent drone strikes come at a critical juncture in the war. With winter approaching and neither side making significant territorial gains, the conflict appears to be at a stalemate. However, the drone attacks, coupled with reports of a Ukrainian troop buildup in the Kursk region, suggest that Kiev may be preparing for a major offensive. The Kursk region, which borders Ukraine, has been the site of intense fighting in recent months. The reported Ukrainian troop buildup in the area has raised concerns in Moscow that Kyiv may be planning a cross-border incursion. Such a move, if successful, would be a major blow to Russia, potentially cutting off supply lines to its forces in eastern Ukraine. The potential for a Ukrainian offensive, combined with the ongoing drone strikes, has significantly raised the stakes of the conflict. Russia, already facing mounting casualties and economic pressure, now faces the prospect of a multi-pronged Ukrainian assault. This new phase in the war, characterized by increased Ukrainian aggression and the targeting of Russian territory, has the potential to escalate the conflict significantly. The Kremlin has so far downplayed the significance of the drone strikes, dismissing them as acts of desperation by a failing Ukrainian state. However, the attacks have clearly rattled Moscow, prompting increased security measures and threats of retaliation. The situation remains tense, with both sides on edge and the potential for further escalation looming large. Amidst the escalating tensions, Russian President Vladimir Putin has made a surprising move. In a televised address, Putin congratulated Donald Trump on his second term as U.S. president and expressed his willingness to engage in negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. This unexpected overture has been met with skepticism from Western leaders, who view it as a ploy to buy time and deflect blame for the stalled invasion. Putin's peace overture comes as Russia faces mounting pressure on multiple fronts. The sanctions imposed by the West are taking their toll on the Russian economy, and the military campaign in Ukraine has stalled. By offering negotiations, Putin seeks to portray himself as a peacemaker and shift the blame for the conflict onto Ukraine and its Western backers. However, Putin's sincerity is questionable. His past actions, including the annexation of Crimea and support for separatists in eastern Ukraine, suggest a disregard for international law and Ukrainian sovereignty. Moreover, his recent crackdown on dissent within Russia and his continued propaganda campaign against Ukraine indicate that he remains committed to his imperial ambitions. The international community has reacted cautiously to Putin's peace overture. While welcoming the prospect of negotiations, Western leaders have stressed the need for Russia to demonstrate its commitment to a peaceful resolution by withdrawing its troops from Ukraine and respecting Ukrainian sovereignty. The outcome of the conflict in Ukraine will depend not only on the actions of Russia and Ukraine, but also on the role of the international community, particularly the United States. The recent return of Donald Trump to the White House has injected a new element of uncertainty into the equation. Trump's past pronouncements on Ukraine, including his praise for Putin and his suggestion that the U.S. might not defend NATO allies in the event of a Russian attack, have raised concerns in Kyiv and among U.S. allies in Europe. While Trump has yet to articulate a clear policy on Ukraine, his administration's approach is likely to differ significantly from that of his predecessor. One key question is whether Trump will maintain or even strengthen the sanctions imposed on Russia by the previous administration. Trump has indicated his willingness to work with Putin, but he has also hinted at the possibility of imposing additional sanctions if Russia does not engage in meaningful negotiations. The future of sanctions will be crucial in determining the trajectory of the conflict. The sanctions have already had a significant impact on the Russian economy, and their continued enforcement is essential to maintaining pressure on Putin to seek a peaceful resolution. However, Trump's unpredictable nature and his transactional approach to foreign policy make it difficult to predict how he will ultimately handle the issue of sanctions.